أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. All right, so we're gonna just quickly recap what we took last week just to place ourselves, inshallah, for today's discussion. Do anyone remember what we discussed? Some of the points that we took away from last lesson. So we talked.
No, I think it was about when you get divorced. I think there was about periods where you had to wait. There was a period waiting time, and what you the man has to wait until um it's finalized. And some of the reasons was for maybe they reconciliate or it's proven that she's pregnant or not pregnant. I
Mhm.
think some of them was that she's
You're right. Absolutely, yeah. So instead of I'm just gonna qualify what you mean by period, waiting
yes,
period, right?
yes.
So it's the waiting period after a husband pronounces
That's
divorce.
right.
Yeah, called the iddah of the woman.
Yes,
Yes,
that's
that's
the one.
exactly what we talked about, which was three menstrual
Yes.
cycles. Okay, and we also talked about what else did we talk about? What is not permissible for a woman to do in this time?
It was not permissible for her to conceal if she was in fact pregnant.
Very good. So she's not allowed to conceal any pregnancy, and nor is she allowed to conceal what?
If she's not pregnant.
No, that's one thing, right? But
Okay.
like the other one, it was about her cycles as
Oh, that's right.
well, right?
That's right.
Because only the woman knows what exactly is going on. So she has to be honest about that. Like she can't like expedite the period more than I mean like earlier than her cycles and so on. So she needs to be very conscious that just because she's the only one with that information, she has to fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if she is indeed a believer in Allah in the day of judgment, meaning she knows she will be accountable for her actions and her statements, she should not do that. And we also talked about one interesting discussion. What was that?
I don't. Was it the roles of the husband and the different roles that are giving? But Allah has said that man has a degree over women, but not in a sense of being better.
Yeah.
Uh, because of the roles that Allah has given them doesn't mean that now the man is better. It's because of the responsibility that's put upon him for financial and all that things and security. I think that
Mhm.
was one of them. I
Right,
could be
right.
wrong.
Yep. So we also talked about the fact that, as you mentioned earlier, that the husband has the right to take back the wife during this period of this waiting period. To in order to reconcile and to get back together. So as we said, that was one of the wisdoms. And then we also talked about the fact that women's have rights over men, just as men have rights over women, right? So Allah says, وَلَهُنَّ مِثْلُ الَّذِي عَلَيْهِنَّ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ. Just like rights are expected, responsibilities are expected from the woman, similar, a husband has responsibility over his wives. Um, and then we talked about that they do have a rank, a daraja, over the women. And just I want to clarify that from point. We were talking about, I was just going from the angle of the feelings that women have in general about, oh, how come they're giving daraja and so on. We understand Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is 100% just, right? Whatever He's decreed is out of complete wisdom. But and we also talked about that the fadl is not necessarily of virtue, right? It's not necessarily a virtue. It's not necessarily of a person's worth, but because they have been given certain qualities, okay, over the women that give them a higher responsibility. But that also shows that they do also deserve a level of respect as well. So this is not to say, oh, this person is not worth anything, and so I can do whatever. No, no, no. Just because they have that authority, they also deserve that respect, and that has been given to them by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. All right. So I just wanted to clarify that point in case somebody misunderstood. And again, respect has to do with greater responsibility that they have us, that he is above all Azizun Hakim, right? Because if the man abuses that power, abuses that responsibility, then he is liable and responsible to answer in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for his actions. So just with that greater privilege, right, comes a greater responsibility. And that was where we had ended off. So today we're going to be going a little bit more detail in what talaq is all about. And I'll hand over the mic to Sis Anisa.
Okay, Sister Mahira. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I hope everybody is well. So like Sister Mahira mentioned, we're slowly going into the divorce phase. So previously we've discussed marriage in various different verses, and now the last verse touched upon divorce. And this verse is going into a little bit of depth, maybe starting the discussion on the regulations regarding divorce. So we begin ayah 229 today. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. الطلاق مرتان فإمساك بمعروف أو تسريح بإحسان ولا يحل لكم أن تأخذوا مما آتيتموهن شيئا إلا أن يخافا ألا يقيما حدود الله فإن خفتم ألا يقيما حدود الله فلا جناح عليهما فيما افتدت به تلك حدود الله فلا تعتدوها ومن يتعد حدود الله فأولئك هم الظالمون. So the ayah begins with الطلاق مرتان. The divorce is twice. What does it mean here by the divorce is twice? There's two chances of like the person gets two chances before the final divorce. They finally separate, basically. So what do you mean by two chances? What? So when, how? So basically, I think the when a person wants to like separate, they give a divorce, and it's not they will not actually get divorced. They can still get back together again. And after getting back together, he decides to divorce again. I think, and after that, it's basically, she's not halal for him, and the second chance is got, and find enough, and it doesn't get another chance after the second chance, basically. Of taking her back. Yeah, absolutely. So whenever we hear divorce in the society that we live in, it to my mind, initially it was divorce is divorce. And when we started to study these ayats, I was thinking divorce twice, and then you can go back. It didn't like add up to me. So when you go into details of it, it shows you, the steps that Allah has given in reconciliation. It just makes so much sense. So before we begin, actually, I'd like to make a small disclaimer that anything we discuss here, generic discussion about this subject, it's a discussion to broaden our knowledge and about this topic, and to see what Allah has mentioned about it. And I'd like to just advise anyone to not make any life-changing decisions based on whatever we mention or we say. So this is for just to clarify that issue. Anyway, let's go back. The issue of the subject of marriage and divorce should not be taken lightly. It's a very, very serious matter. So in previous verses, we've learned how Allah mentions about nikah, and the mention was of how to. We also discussed how to look for the qualities of when you do marry somebody, is to overall to make the right choice, to maintain that bond, that relationship, so that there will be a flourished society. And this is a sacred bond to work on this relationship, and it's like an institution. Marriage is. So whenever we go into marriage, we go with a lot of consultation. We look at different the options and the pros and cons. We outweigh the pros and cons, and we go into it with, a complete, not like impulsively. So similarly, divorce shouldn't also be treated like that. So divorce should also not be treated impulsively. The decision should not be taken lightly, and the decision should not be taken on emotions or impulse or in a cruel manner. Oftentimes this happens, that divorces just has to be nasty. It just has to be, there has to be something wrong with one or both parties, where it just, there's no going back, there's no reconciliation, and it has to go through a really hurtful process. Although it is hurtful, but there is a way, through it, and Allah gives us the guidelines in these verses. So الطلاق مرتان فإمساك بمعروف أو تسريح بإحسان. Here Allah mentions that if you retain the wife, if the husband retains the wife, he should retain with ma'ruf, with a recognized, in a recognized good manner, in an acceptable manner. And this is according to how in their society, in your society, in the society that this person lives in and eating and breathing in, the way any other person, a good person, treats their wives, the husband should retain the woman and keep the wife within that period. So when the talaq is given first time, as Sister Moni mentioned, the very first time when the talaq is given, there is a 3-month waiting period. The iddah is 3 months. And within this 3 months, if the husband decides now, okay, I'd like to take this person back and let's reconcile, for the children and the rest of it, they can do so. And then after a while, if now something's happened again in the relationship and the husband pronounces divorce the second time, which may be after 1 year or, like 5 months or whatever, then that's the second strike done. So then within the 3-month waiting period, if he takes her back, with obviously ma'ruf, and then they can continue in that marriage. But that's it. If he does that the third time, then the divorce is irrevocable. So the first 2 times is revocable, you can take back, but it has to be within the 3 months waiting period. And the third time is irrevocable. And there are, we're going to go through into that in later ayats. But that's what is meant by the two twice, talaq maratan. And this is a, like, to Allah regulates, because in the Jahiliyyah times and in the time before this ayah was revealed, the practice was that people would divorce and take women back as, like, indefinitely. And, in some cases, even up to 100 times they would take, and with the time, they would take back, and then they would divorce, then they take back. And this is utmost cruelty to the woman. And there was an incident, I think, I've read upon, there was an incident where this happened several times, and the man would divorce and then take the woman back. So she went and made a complaint to the Prophet ﷺ, and then this ayah was revealed. So the divorce, now the man cannot do as he pleases, and it's regulated. So although divorce is allowed in Islam, there's regulation. to it. And then, in Islam, Allah recognizes, and Allah, recognizes very fully that these marriages don't always work out. And some marriages are not meant to last. And but it shouldn't be done in a reckless way. So therefore, these discussions we will discuss these things in these ayats, inshallah. So the next so if we continue this in the recognized manner, أو تسريحهم بإحسان, or release them with ihsan. So the difference, there's two words mentioned here, ma'ruf and ihsan. Retaining them here, the word is used, the word to retain, after retain was used ma'ruf, in a recognized good manner. But when releasing them, you have to be even better. You have to practice ihsan. And we know, we've talked about ihsan before, how ihsan is like the top level of goodness, the highest level. So whenever we are doing anything, that it concerns another person, especially in the marriage, ihsan is of utmost importance. And this is, Allah mentions, and it's so difficult to actually practice this. But hence Allah is using the word ihsan here, because a lot of the time in marriages the dhulm is done on the other person because they're so close to that person, and sometimes you can override their emotions, and there can be neglect. They can neglect each other's rights, and they can commit injustice to each other as well. And there could be many reasons for this, because there are expectations in marriage, and these can be small, they can be big, which is why ihsan is mentioned here. Does anyone have anything to add to this, or any reflection on just this part?
I was thinking about subhanallah because the other one Allah used bima'ruf. But usually when people stay together, you work in a way that is acceptable. But when you decided, okay, now I'm going to divorce this person, this is literally when the person is at their most bitter,
Yeah,
in their
yeah.
worst behavior, oftentimes.
Mhm.
So Allah used
Mhm.
something even better than the one before mentioned, because usually when you're together in a good terms, because you
Yeah.
decided for some reason there's some likability, you decided you
Mhm.
like each other enough to stay together. But here, okay, that's it. This is when people are the worst. So Allah has used
Yeah.
the most amazing word to counter that emotion, that time, and that usual treatment.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's amazing how Allah uses his wordings to actually, give us something broad here and make us, tame ourselves in a way. And this is amazing to use this word here, ihsan. Anyone else? Jazakallah khair, sister. It's beautiful. Anyone else want to add something to this verse?
I just wanted to comment on top of what Sis Firdausa mentioned. It's really beautiful, like what she mentioned. And I'm just thinking as we're reflecting on the word ihsan, it's like basically going over and above a person's rights, right? So normally with the husband-wife relationship, everyone's thinking about, oh, what's my right? What's my response? Like right over this person, or this person needs to give this to me and I need to give this to him. So it's always about rights and, oh, he didn't do this, so I'm not gonna do this. I didn't do this. Like that, like give and take.
Mm,
But
yeah.
ihsan is like, stop thinking like that. Stop thinking this person
Mm,
owes me anything or I owe him anything. Just leave all of that discussion aside and just show the best character you can. And not for the sake of that other person, but that's for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? That's where
mm,
ihsan is. Like it has nothing to do with, oh, he didn't do that to me, so I'm not gonna do that. Right? It has
mm,
nothing to do, the other person's not in the equation when it comes to ihsan. It's only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I'm only doing this because Allah loves this and He's told me to do it. That's the only way we
mm,
can actually like bring that character in this very heated and troublesome time, when it's
absolutely.
not about that give and take anymore.
No, definitely. Jazakallah khair. Thank you. I was thinking also about the iddah period. You know how it's twice and then there's 3 months, and it just gives that time. We shouldn't make hasty decisions at any time. When we've seen things are not going our way, just reflect on yourself, reflect on the situation, seek counsel, seek guidance, and then if you must, then pronounce the divorce. But then it's not, that's it. There's this iddah period where, and this is with anything. Sometimes you realize when you rush into something and then be like, oh my God, why didn't I just wait? And this happens a lot when you rush into answering somebody back. Like, when someone says something to you and you quickly answer them back. And then like, I should have thought about it before I said something. And this is a huge matter in someone's life, because keeping the marriage is so important. Retaining the marriage is so important, even if you have to make many sacrifices, and that's what keeps the relationship. And like in the previous lesson, I think you mentioned about not about the woman, they should disclose if she is pregnant, if she is about to have a baby. Only she would know. And this in the period also is a way of getting this information, whether she is pregnant or not. So if then they could think, okay, there's a child in play now, there's a child coming into the world, so what should we do? Should we continue with this marriage? Because it means a lot. So if we're worried about this child who's not born yet, what about the children who are there? They're 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, even teenagers. And what about the consideration of those children? So, there are marriages that simply, basically, it just held on because of the children. And people have made sacrifices because of that, because they see beyond that. They see the bigger picture. So that's the emphasis on keeping the relationship. And the holding on, just that word, hold on. So if only the person who is in the marriage will know whether this person is worth holding on to. And they can make that decision, and consulting Allah, because you know what's in your heart and you know this person. If you strip off all the other stuff and you look at the core person, what's within them, then you'll be able to overlook and oversee those negativities, and you'll think like, is this person worth holding on to, or am I causing more problems by holding on to this person? So even the word holding on is so beautiful here that Allah mentions them. That's amazing. Alhamdulillah.
Can I just say something? Exactly
Yeah.
what the other sister was mentioning, how we get angry. It's true, because that's when humiliation, revenge, and about, how disclosure, some weaknesses of the woman is disclosed, some men weaknesses, and other things, many other things then disclosed, that the character is then shamed, and then family is then humiliated as well, vice versa. So often this ends up happening with divorce, whereas Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is reminding us of this. So it's very easy, like when everything is good, it's simple, easy, we're very kind to each other. The minute something goes wrong, that's when we're loud, we don't control ourselves. So again, it's our spiritual maturity. So this ayah is teaching us that, are you maintaining fairness? When you get hurt, disappointed, you get angry, are you actually conscious of Allah? And often that is not the case. But the true essence of this is that this is a decision. The ending belongs to Allah as well. So the ayah is telling us that the ending also belongs to Allah. So whatever's going to happen, the decree, it belongs to Allah anyway. And it's just a process that when it's meant to happen, we're going to go through, and we're tested. So this is also another means. And how a believer, we judge, and with our relationships, we only find, we want to find the ease, we want to find the peaceful way. However, when something goes wrong, we make it very difficult for each other. And then it comes to kids. When they have kids, even when we kid, often it's gone down to court. It's gone down to custody. It's gone down to, police cases. And this shouldn't happen. Islam is just, this ayah is telling us, look, maruf, be kind to each other, let go with, kindness, because especially when kids are involved, even more kind you should be. But often it's the opposite. You are, as a woman, you're then left on the street. You're left with food bank because the partner decides or the husband decides, that's it. You know what? You deserve this. They come to a divorce, you deserve this. And then where's the tawakkul? Then where that's the thing. Like, you marry a Muslim man, Muslim. Shouldn't they know this? That's what Allah sometimes telling us, reminding you. But then who reflects? This is the thing. Who is reflecting? So again, everything boils down to our character, our patience, especially, Quran transforms us. And divorce is not like a bad thing. It's an opportunity for you to become more patient, compassionate, change your life for a betterment. It could be that could be the best thing for you. So we shouldn't see negative. We shouldn't always see that, oh my God, it's the end of the world. We shouldn't see that our parents, our society, and whatever not. Also, those are aspects I think that does make a woman, or sometimes go through mental torture, many other things. I mean, sorry, I'm just probably going off track.
No, it's fine. Yeah,
I thought like there's so much there that this ayah can say, and it's honestly only if we believe in it, life gets better.
Yeah, absolutely. Jazakallah khair, which this also leads us to the next part of the ayah. Where Allah mentions, وَلَا يَحِلُّ لَكُمْ أَن تَأْخُذُوا مِمَّا آتَيْتُمُوهُنَّ شَيْئًا إِلَّا أَن يَخَافَا أَلَّا يُقِيمَا حُدُودَ اللَّهِ. So in the next part, and it's not lawful for you to take back anything from what you have given them, which is, what's that? What do you understand by anything from what you have given them? So any like a dowry and any gift and mahar, that you have given her. Yeah. Any little thing that you have given her as a gift. Absolutely, any gift as the mahar. So unless both fear that they will not uphold the limits of Allah. So here it's the indication to khula. And this is where Sister Nazmin touched upon. When a woman is going through mental, psychological, even physical torture, and they read, this verse, they'll find so much comfort in it. They'll find validation. They'll find recognition from Allah that, oh, Allah sees me, and Allah has given me a way out. But oftentimes, it's society that doesn't give the woman a way out because of all the pressure of being the best, the best wife, the best mother, the best of everything, the best daughter-in-law, and even though if the woman is going through the torture, she's supposed to bear it. And that's what the mind frame of many women, is as especially in the times before, the olden times of our mothers, even though they may be going through any type of torture, they have to bear it. And that's, if you bear it, if you bear all of those torture, then it shows that how much of a good person you are. You've taken all of this. But clearly here in this ayah, Allah gives a way out for the woman. And this is not, this is in no way, shape or form to belittle her status. She is still to remain dignified. And, the pressure the stigma around divorce, especially attached to the women, is quite saddening. Is quite, especially in our, the background, the Asian background, it's looked down upon. So a woman who is going through so much, trouble in her marriage, and she sees, day in, day out, the torture, She has a way out, and Allah has mentioned it here, because she can release herself from this, and she has rights as well. It's not just the husband that has the right to divorce, but she has her rights as well. And the verse acknowledges in this, and it's called khula, where a woman can initiate a separation if the marriage becomes harmful or unbearable. And this highlights, mutual accountability in the marriage here. If someone, also husband and wife, they both decide, and the woman wants to come out of this marriage. Does anyone know the idda period of khula?
Is it a month, sister?
It is a month, yes. So the idda period of khula is a month, and she can come out of it because she wants to come out of it. So we come. Any reflection from this part from anyone?
Sister, I'm not even sure. I read that if the brother, like the sister, is going through mistreatment and the brother is mistreating him, then the courts issue that divorce and she doesn't have to give back anything of what he's given her. But the time that she gives it back is if he's given her all her rights, but she's just not interested in him. Like emotionally, she's not connected to him and she doesn't want the marriage to continue anymore. Then she buys herself out. But if he's the one
Really
doing the
so.
oppression, yeah, if he's doing the oppression on her, then she doesn't give anything back and she still receives her meher. She doesn't give back anything.
SubhanAllah.
Yeah.
So if she seeks, if they mutually kind of agree, you're saying, is that right?
Yeah, if she's the
Mm-hmm.
one that, okay, so the brother's a good brother in all
Mm-hmm.
aspects, he's very good, but because there was a hadith where a sahabiyat came to the Prophet of Allah and she was married to a Thabit ibn Qais and she said he's a good
Mm-hmm.
man, there's nothing wrong with him, but I'm feeling tortured being with him.
Mm-hmm.
And the Prophet of Allah said, then would you mind giving back his because he gave her land as meher to buy
Yeah,
yourself out. And she said yes, so that's how she received her divorce and he got his land back.
she released herself from that.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Jazakallah, yeah. So she can release herself by giving back all, or some or all of what he gave her at the time of the marriage. And this is if they fear that they'll cross the limits of Allah. فإن خفتم ألا يقيما حدود الله فلا جناح عليهما فيما افتدت به. So if they fear, both of them, and it's both they fear they will not be able to uphold the limits of Allah. If you fear that they will not uphold the limits of Allah, then there is no blame upon them for what she gives to release herself. So she has the right to do that herself. تلك حدود الله فلا تعتدوها ومن يتعدى حدود الله فأولئك هم الظالمون. So there is a lot of mention of hududullah here. I think four times the mention of hududullah, the limits set by Allah here. Can anyone go into or give us like a reflection on like the wisdom behind why Allah has mentioned this? Allah repeatedly mentions hudud of Allah.
I think it's just going against Allah's commands, as it's been said in the Quran, whole Quran, Allah's commands. And this is such a really important because relationship, even previously when we studied, in the times of Sulaiman alayhi salam, how the biggest fitna is, how is divorce, in the when they came to, I think, teach
Learn
magic,
magic.
and learn magic, and and the first thing was, trying like get husband and wife to, apart. So yeah, so I think marriage is it is because, like we said previously, marriage brings two families together. Marriage creates, a population, an ummah. So it is, and it's a command of Allah, in here, how to treat the woman with just, and how she has her rights, and even for the men as well, how their rights basically Allah has given them. And I think if you transgress that command, that limit, that's why Allah has mentioned it, over and over. That I know, that's why I feel that
remember, right? It's like a reminder, reminder, like, this is the command of Allah, this is the hudud of Allah, so don't transgress, basically, stick by it. Because you can end the divorce in a good way. It doesn't mean that when two people are divorcing, it doesn't mean that they're both, they're bad or whatever. They may think differently, they want to go their own way, but treat it in a good manner and end it in a good way. Another thing I wanted to mention was like how because previously we talked about, like, how the man has a certain degree over the woman, and then and people, and we talked about, my sister Mahir last week touched upon it a lot, and how women can take it in the wrong way, but here it's mainly mentions about the woman's rights. Do you know what I mean? Like how you should be treating her. If you keep her, keep her in a good way, keep her with respect, and with a good manner. It's all about treating her well and stuff. So I just thought and I was going to say, yeah, that what happens is, when sometimes in relationships, how family gets involved, like sometimes you can clear. I know somebody anyway, where the husband and wife were having a problem between them, and the man was clearly in the wrong, but the family would overlook that, deny that, and just tell the wife to have sabr, have sabr, have sabr. And she was just so sick of hearing that, like, have sabr, he's doing wrong, have sabr, he's doing this, have sabr. So she was like, why am I the one who have to, see him and just have sabr for the wrong that he's doing? And these are the people who say that, they pray and everything. So here it's clear that, her rights, and how it should be done, and how families can come and sort of create, fitna in the relationship, and and how it should be done, in a good manner, really. So I just want to have a reflect on that. Yeah. Jazakallah khair. Thank you so much for that. Yeah, so the hudud of Allah.
Sister.
Yep, of course.
Yeah, so in the ayahs, Allah says hududullah, some of the, like this, 4 times Allah repeated that. So three of them is connected to action. So the verbal Allah is using, like the which is time bound, and people's situations change. But when Allah says these are the boundaries of Allah, now it comes to Jumla Ismiya, saying that this is set, it's been digged in, there's no crossing it, there's no ifs and buts about it, it's not related to time. This is absolute. So I thought that was
absolutely beautiful. Jazakallah khair. And what is meant by hudud of Allah?
Like the limits set by Allah within the marriage. Like there is limits set for men and limits set for women. Each has rules to abide by within the marriage. So Allah is talking about the limits that Allah has set it within that marriage, because it's a contract. And Allah is tying it with the laws. It's like it's a law, so there's a contract there. And if both are in the contract, and the contract has details that everybody has to abide by it.
There are many things in marriage that you will, and in divorce, that that will take place, and you can go into transgressing, the limits of Allah, the limits Allah has set. But what is the limit of Allah, the hudud of Allah?
Oh, okay, I get it. So set in within the marriage. So man, but I'm assuming, I'm gonna guess that provision has to provide for the family. That's one of it. And good treatment, and the bedroom, like there's things that are like man has a right on the woman, and the woman has a right. So for her, it would be the protection, would be the assistance, and for him would be the other thing. Like if you're in the bedroom and you're all of a sudden he's like, you know what, I don't feel like it. It's not gonna happen. So that's not okay. That's like that is his right. As he cannot say, oh, you know what, you want to eat, you get it from your family. Like providing the food.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
I just wanted to add that the limits of Allah is those that He commands us to do. So, as the sister said about fulfilling the rights and responsibilities within for both the spouses of each other, and also staying away from what Allah prohibits us from doing. So, the sister said again, talking about your bedroom issues, outside,
Mm.
and getting, talking about any little things to your family members and things like that, which might cause, I don't know, disagreements or incite other miscommunication. So it's the commands of Allah of what our roles and responsibilities are to each other, and also staying away from what Allah dislikes us from doing. Um,
So,
Even Allah previously explained about even sexual intimacy. So there is also prohibitions of what is allowed and what isn't allowed. So even just following that, setting that, and I think this boundary is there because, especially when there is talaq involved, it's pride gets into it, and a lot of the time, what it is you forget, and all you want to do is kind of like get revenge and get demean people, or because that was the most closest thing to you, and because you feel betrayed, then you feel as if like you want to put them, because you're feeling horrible, you want to make that person physically, put them in the bottom of the pit as much as possible. But Allah is like saying, be careful, because despite all of this, as you said, you're still in a contract, and you need to have respect for each other. You still need to have, if that first talaq is there, the wife is still living with you, you still need to provide for her.
Yeah, absolutely. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Jazakallah khair for summing that up. So, in the matter of divorce, especially, people can go into crossing boundaries, like even if seemingly they are practicing people, they can, people can go into, because it's such a sensitive thing, it's such a sensitive issue, where, ego comes into place. So, like it's, as Sister Mahira mentioned also, that it's all about me. Why didn't they why didn't they give me my rights? So hence, if they haven't done this, then I will do this. I'll show them, then that's when you have to realize that Allah has set limits. Watch what you do and watch what you say, and regulate yourself, regulate your emotions. Don't let this tarnish your character. And at the end of the day, you have to follow Allah's commands and Allah's regulations, and seek counsel, seek advice, and go to people who will be able to give you the sincere advice as well. So yeah, absolutely, Sister Rashida just summed it up, the hudud of Allah, and it's just the lesson from this, I think, would be like, it's a spiritual lesson here, that Islam places ethics above ego, because divorce, ego, as we said, is a huge factor in crossing the boundaries of Allah and in family matters. Another thing I wanted to point out as well, فَإِنْ خِفْتُمْ أَلَّا يُقِيمًا. So this is addressing like you all. It's a plural. So whoever is involved in terms of family and the people around, whoever involved, that they will not be able to, you can see clearly that they will not be able to uphold the limits of Allah. You can see that they're going the wrong way. So if anyone has anybody who, anyone has a family member or a friend or whatever, and they can see clearly that that person, they're going the wrong way. They're doing something that's not, acceptable, within the boundaries of Allah, then it's your duty to, give that good advice and redirect this person to show them what they, because a lot of the time it happens that the two people can be very, very good. They can be, in their own rights, they can be the best of people, the best people individually. But when they come together, something triggers them, and another side of them comes out. And sometimes when you see that coming, that side of that person coming in, and you think that you have a role to play in this, and you cannot change certain aspects of yourself, you can see clearly that because of your actions, you're ruining the other person's character, then you have to do something about it. And it's one of those sensitive topics and subjects that we it's important that we people learn about this and give good advice if someone is going through something like this, but always go through 1 to 10, not straight from 1 to 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, and all the way to 10. So try everything else, like Allah mentions. Allah, we should look at Allah's sunnah, the way he does things, gradually, slowly, giving it time, especially when something is so sacred, giving it time. And this is just how Allah gives us this type of framework to show us although certain things in Allah or commands certain things, but there's other things that he allows, and within this allowance he gives regulations. So in the previous ayats, he allowed people to, in the beginning, people were actually allowed to drink, but there were limitations. Don't come to prayer, drunk, for example. But then it was completely, abolished. Whereas these type of things, although divorce is something that is not sought, like just, in any small matter, you just quickly resort to divorce, is something that is not the ideal, but Allah has left it. He hasn't completely abolished it because there's wisdom in it as well. So with this, we will today. And anyone has any type of reflections from this or anything?
I want to just say something that I thought, adding on to Rashida's, basically, crossing Allah's limits usually begins with people's desire and, anger, ego, arrogance, pride. This is what you've summed it all up. Often those become stronger, whereas the obedience to Allah then kind of decreases. So again, that's when we know, the minute we know that our desires are getting far greater, our anger is getting beyond control, egoistic and arrogance. And often all this is part of a process when divorce happens between a husband and wife, because there's always argument, disagreements, ego problem, jealousy, ego problem. They have pride between spouses of certain aspects. And often this is what it is. That's when Allah's, we tend to become disobedient to Allah because we don't know to where our boundaries are now anymore. We're fighting between two parties, and this is when everything falls apart, unfortunately. And we just need to know that when Allah subhanahu is telling us the limits, don't abuse a divorce, don't harm the spouse, financially or emotionally. And Allah subhanahu is telling us that, how you clearly said about not taking back a gift unjustly, maintain dignity and justice. That's the main thing Allah subhanahu is, telling us in this ayah, because that's when everything goes wrong, especially when there's kids, then there's bitterness. Always there's bitterness, there's always and then these kids grow up having a broken family, they're messed up. Society, this is a reflection to nowadays society. Often this is marriage breaking is a norm nowadays. And we need to go back to these ayahs, and we need to literally teach ourselves, teach our kids, reinforce this into them, that they need to live the word of the Quran. Like that needs to become our family, isn't it? We need to understand it better, so that future generations can work towards it and not go beyond the limits. It's very sad.
It is sad, but alhamdulillah, Allah gives us guidelines in the Quran, and then we can seek counsel through this, inshallah. Anyone else want to add anything?
Yeah, just on top of what Sister Nazmeen said, she said exactly what I was gonna say about the reason why people transgress is because of their desires, emotions, ego. But what it leads to is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says right at the end which is وَمَن يَتَعَدَّ حُدُودَ اللَّهِ فَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الظَّالِمُونَ. So it's a very, very scary thing. It's like a person who transgresses these boundaries, they are considered an oppressor by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. SubhanAllah, right? And it's so scary because oppression is a greater like sin or a greater issue on the day of judgment than just, for example, sinning against Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for example, right? So, for example, a person, drinks alcohol or, something related to them, and now they have to answer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They seek forgiveness. Allah can forgive them. No problem, right? If, they're sincere in tawbah and so on. But for dhulm, which is related to other people, okay, there are two levels of forgiveness that are needed in the akhirah. One is Allah's. First of all, a person disobeyed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's law. He didn't observe the hudud. So he has to answer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for that. But the second level is that other person has to forgive the person, subhanAllah, which is so scary. It's like a double layer. And then if, let's say, Allah forgives that person and the other person does not, what then?
Yeah.
So dhulm is a huge, huge, like scary situation, right? And these things we take so lightly, subhanAllah, like, oh, just not giving someone their right and, just abusing, bad mouthing, whatever, this, that. It is dhulm. And if that person is hurt and they want to take, revenge on Yawm al-Qiyamah, they can. That is like risking your akhirah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can be most merciful and forgive, but will that person forgive you? So subhanAllah, it is very scary. And dhulm is something that a person can fall into through their ego and through their emotions. So these are two actual like character things that we need to like constantly be aware of. And it's not like, oh, I don't have an ego, I don't have an emotion. Every single person, every one of us has them.
Yep.
And we have to like consciously work on it and say, no, you know what? My ego is coming. No, but what is Allah saying? Allah is above my ego. Allah is above my emotion that I'm feeling. Like, say, I'm feeling revenge. I feel like I want to do this and that to this person. No, Allah is above this. Allah is above my emotion. I cannot do one.
No.
SubhanAllah, so just to put that into perspective.
Jazakallah khair. Thank you. Yeah. Anyone else has anything to add to this? Okay, so with this, inshallah, let's close today. And today, inshallah. Anyone else have anything to add? Last, nothing else? We'll just close on what Sister Mahira mentioned and keep that in our head. Actually, with the injustice that we can always look inwards. Always look inwards. And whenever you're dealing with someone else, something, don't let your ego take over your intellect, your emotions. Inshallah. I just want to say something. I just want to mention something else, actually. Just thinking, when a couple is having their nikah and their mom's like reading the nikah, and then before there's explaining everything about the rights and all that stuff. And I think, those are really, really important words that he's saying about their wife's rights and their husband's rights and everything, where people just listen and, and then after they forget about it. But I think, when a couple is going into, a relationship of getting married, going to marital, relationship, I think it's so important to have and be educated. Like one of the sisters said, I'm not sure which sister, like be educated in this is because it's so important. The rights and the women's rights and the men's rights here. It's because a lot of things I've been married for 25 years, but there are so many things I'm learning from here as well, so I think it's really important. I think, just like I have a sort of a course or something where a couple should go and learn about what they're getting themselves into and how they give, the boundaries that are set Allah has set in this marriage, and which they might transgress, and how much they should sort of the rights of each other basically. So just sitting down thinking, I thought let me just mention this.
That's good. Educate yourselves.
It's something to be really mindful and educated on, especially the young people now, because like one of the sisters said, you go in and you make decisions, from your heart, but really you should be making from your, from your head, from your mind. And they go in emotionally when they go into relationship, young couples now, they go in emotionally, but there are so many things that are involved in a marriage.
There are many expectations here.
Many expectations. They sometimes first they think it's just them, but with the marriage comes family, and then you'll have you'll have children, and so many things. So and suddenly they are bombarded with all these sort of things. And they think, oh, I wasn't expecting this.
Okay, Jazakallah khair for everyone's input. And with this, we'll end today's lesson. Subhanakallahumma bihamdik. Nashhadu la ilaha illa ant. Nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.